Okay, hi everybody. We are going to finish the Cask of Amontillado today. Before I do, a couple of announcements. Number one, no DLP, no reading log this week. I want to really focus in on finishing up Cask of Amontillado and the Raven. Okay, the goal is to get those two done and then have an assessment on Friday. Okay, so yeah, we'll still have no red ink on Wednesday. We'll have an ready that I expect you to get done as well. But I do want to get that assessment done for the three stories that we will have read of Edgar Allan Poe. It's The Telltale Heart, The Cask of Amontillado, and The Raven. The Raven is shorter than all of the others that we've read, so we should go by that very quickly to read it. However, it is the most complex and difficult to understand fully. So we do need to spend a little time as we go. So we'll finish reading that really, really quickly, but we'll have to kind of reread it over and over again to fully understand and grasp the genius of it. To me, The Raven is the best Edgar Allan Poe, but I didn't always think that because I didn't quite fully understand it until I started actually teaching it more and more and more. And then I realized how perfect it really is. Love The Cask of Amontillado. I think it's a fun, eerie, dark story. Love Telltale Heart 2. That was the original one. You know, that's the OG Poe. But The Raven, I tell you, when you fully understand what he's doing in The Raven, it's unbelievable. But we're not doing The Raven today. We are finishing up the Cask of Amontillado. Quick recap, and then we'll jump in it. We're on paragraph 70. We have already, of course, our main characters, Fortunato and Montessor. Montessor has got Fortunato down into the catacombs, really, really deep, even constantly saying, let's go back, you're sick, let's go back. Fortunato is saying, no, we got to go get this wine. He's getting drunker and drunker. He doesn't fully understand, and we finally got to the end of the catacombs, okay? So it's a really good example is my laundry room here, okay? So there's this is kind of the size of what we're talking about. It's like, oh, I'll pull you in here. Okay, so this is our laundry room. Gotta open it up here. Okay, so you can see that's about the size we're talking about 7-8 feet tall, maybe even a little bit narrower. But this is staring at Fortunato, and this is where Montessor is saying that's where the cask is. Of Amontillado, you got to go in there. Okay, so this is what I want you to have in your mind as I step back a little bit. I think you can see that pretty well. Okay, so it's just a very small closet space, enough for you to stand entirely in, not feeling super claustrophobic, although you probably will in a second. Okay, so let me close these. Okay, so that's what we're imagining. I don't know if you could see that very well. I couldn't really see that. So that little area, that is our what Fortunato is staring at, actually walking into voluntarily. I mean, Montessor is saying, hey, go in there, but he's not like forcing him or dragging him in there against his will. Fortunato is saying, okay, let's do this. Let's go in there. And that's where we left off. Okay, so let's continue with paragraph 70. If you want to join me following along with the Amplified Library. Okay, so he had just finished saying, proceed. I said, herein is the Amontillado, as for Lucchesi. And so this is where Fortunato says, he is ignoramus, which ignoramus is an ignorant person, if you will, interrupted my friend, as he stepped unsteadily forward while I followed immediately at his heels. In an instant, he had reached the extremity of the niche, which is just the closet, and finding the progress arrested by the rock, stood there, stupidly bewildered. So he walks in, doesn't quite understand it, is like, what's happening? And a moment more, and I had feted him to the granite. In the surface were two iron staples, distant from each other about 2 feet horizontally. Okay, so two iron staples. From one of those depended a short chain, and from the other a padlock. Okay, so imagine two like rings, if you will. One of them has a chain, and the other one has a padlock. Okay, and so you could probably guess what he's going to do from this. Throwing the links about his waist, it was but the work of a few seconds to secure it. He was too much astounded to resist. Withdrawing from the key, I stepped back from the recess. So he's chained him to the closet, in a sense. Just really quick, just in an instant, he's chained up. Probably before he even realizes what's happening. Paragraph 72. Pass your hand, I said, over the wall. You cannot help feel the nitrate. Indeed, it is very damp. Once more, let me implore you to return. No? Then I must positively leave you. But first, I must render you all the little attentions in my power. Okay, so he's basically being a little sarcastic at this point. He's like, let's go back. Oh, wait, no, you can't. Now I'm going to tell you about everything. And he says, the Amontillado, ejaculated my friend, who had not yet recovered from this astonishment. So he's still worried about the wine. Fortunato, who is literally locked up in a closet, is still, hey, where's the wine at? Where's the wine? And here's Montesiro going to say, true, I replied, the Amontillado. As I said these words, I busied myself among the pile of bones of which I have before spoken. Throwing them aside, I soon uncovered a quantity of building stone and mortar. With these materials and with the aid of my trowel, I vigorously began to wall up the entrance of the niche. Okay, so this is where the masonry comes back. Remember, we talked about being a mason. A mason to Fortunato is being part of that secret society that controls everything in the background. Being a mason to Montesor, our main character, means you stack up bricks using cement. And that's what he's doing now. So that trowel that he showed him earlier, he still has it, and that's what he's doing. He's laying bricks down, slapping it with the tool, pouring more bricks down, smoothing it out with the tool, and he's building up bricks while his friend is tied up inside of the closet. I had scarcely laid the first tier of my masonry when I discovered that the intoxication of Fortunato had in a great measure worn off. So he was drunk before. Now he's starting to sober up really quickly because he realized this isn't good. The earliest indication I had of this was a low moaning cry from the depth of the recess. It was not the cry of a drunken man. There was then a long and obstinate silence. I laid the second tier, the third tier, and the fourth, and then I heard the furious vibrations of the chain. The noise lasted for several minutes, during which, that I might hearken to it with the more satisfaction, I ceased my labors and sat down upon the bones. Okay, so the bricks are going up and up and up. Fortunato is locked in there. He's starting to realize what's happening, cries out, silence, and then the vibrations, meaning he's trying to break the chain so he can get loose. Obviously not going to happen. And then all this while, our main character is sitting down taking a little break. When at last the clanking subsided, I resumed with the trowel and finished without interruptions the fifth, the sixth, and the seventh tier. So just imagine levels of bricks going up. 1 tier, 2 tier, 3 tier, 4 tier, 5 tier, 6 tier, 7 tier. The wall was now nearly upon a level with my breast, so up to his chest. I again paused, and holding the flambeau over the masonry work, threw a few feeble rays upon the figure within. So he basically takes his light and looks in to see how Fortunato is doing. A succession of loud and shrill screams, bursting suddenly from the throat of the chained form, seemed to thrust me violently back. For a brief moment I hesitated. I trembled, unseating with my rapier. I began to grope about it with the recess. Basically, he gets surprised with the screaming, right? Fortunato lets out these huge screams. Obviously, he knows what's happening. He's screaming, asking for help, and it kind of takes him back, and he's like, oh my gosh, what's happening here? But he's going to recover from that. I placed my hand upon the solid fabric of the catacomb and felt satisfied. I reapproached the wall. I replied to the yells of him who clamored. I re-echoed, I aided, I surpassed them in volume and in strength, and I did this, and the clamor grew still. Okay, so that was a little complicated. So basically, Fortunato's in there, lets out a loud scream. It takes Montesor back a little bit. He's a little surprised. Then he puts his hand on there, and he screams and cries back even louder at Fortunato. almost like mimicking him, mocking him in a way. So you hear a cry for help, desperate cries. You have the murderer mocking him with even louder cries of his own. And this silences Fortunato, kind of makes him realize this guy is crazy. It was now midnight, and my task was drawing to a close. I had completed the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th tier. I had finished a portion of the last and the 11th. There remained but a single stone to be fitted and plastered in. I struggled with its weight. I placed it partially in its destined position, but now there came out from the niche a low laugh that erected the hairs upon my head. So at this point, there's one brick left before being completely shut in. And this is when Fortunato starts to laugh a little bit. He starts to give out a low laugh, which is probably pretty spooky, right? And in fact, it makes the hairs on his head, on Montesora's head, you know, when you get scared, spooked, you get goosebumps. It was succeeded by a sad voice, which I had difficulty in recognizing as the noble Fortunato. The voice said, a very good joke indeed, an excellent jest. We will have many a rich laugh about it at the Palazzo over our wine. The Amontillado, I said. Yes, the Amontillado. But is it not getting late? Will not they be awaiting us at the Palazzo, the Lady Fortunato and the rest? Let us be gone. So here, Fortunato is saying, oh, good joke. It's funny. But aren't they going to be missing me, expecting me? And then he says, yes, I said, let us be gone. For the love of God, Montesor. Yes, I said, for the love of God. But to these words I hearkened in vain for reply. I grew impatient. I called out loud, Fortunato. No answer. I called again, Fortunato. No answer still. I thrust the torch through the remaining aperture and let it fall within. There came forth in return only a jingling of the bells. So what he does is he takes the torch, chucks it in with the last remaining brick. Remember, there's only one more brick, this size or so. It throws the torch in. That's where you hear the jingling of the bells. I told you that would come back. My heart grew sick on account of the dampness of the catacombs, not because he's murdering somebody, but because it's getting so damp in there. I hastened to make an end to my labor. I forced the last stone into position, plastered it up. Against the new masonry, I re-erected the old rampart of bones, and for the half of a century, no mortal had disturbed them. In pace requiescat. Remember, that was his family arms. So, again, we get dark really, really quick here at the end. What he does, basically, he lays a bunch of bricks all the way to the top with the one remaining brick, throws the torch in there, seals us up, puts the bones as they were, and he says for the next half century, for the next 50 years, nobody disturbs the bones. Nobody knows that Fortunato is behind the bricks. The end. Really dark, right? I mean, dark, dark, dark. But pretty awesome story, really. So yeah, there we go. We finished the Cask of Amontillado. As we've seen with the first two, really, Telltale Heart and Cask of Amontillado, revenge is a very big theme that Edgar Allan Poe wants to explore. How far people are willing to go to get revenge and to feel good about themselves. And for Montresor, he basically tricked a man going down, planned all of this, laid bricks. It's a perfect murder when you think about it. Nobody's going to think to look down there. I mean, it's not going to smell your house up. It's genius. And that's so with the Telltale Heart. The amount of detail that the narrator was doing with the Telltale Heart. Remember, he stood at the doorway for an hour without moving, just waiting to look in and to not create a sound. Like the depth of detail and precision that these two guys are doing are great. They're awesome. It's just that they're killing people and murdering people. And that's the bad part. That's the scary part, is that you have really smart people out there. There's a lot of really smart people out there. The scary thought that Edgar Allan Poe is trying to get to you is that what happens when those scary people want to kill you? How they can do it and get away with it, right? Montresor, at the end of our story, he claims nobody found him for 50 years. Probably the rest of Montresor's life. Nobody mentioned it. Nobody suspected him. That's what we get to assume when we read the end of it. So if you're really, really smart and you really want to get away with it, Edgar Allan Poe is suggesting that it's doable, that you can. And they're proud of it, right? Both of the narrators that we just experienced, they're really proud of their accomplishments, even though they're sick and disgusting and dark. And that's Edgar Allan Poe for you. And remember, again, these might be not the scariest stories you've ever seen, although really it does mess with your mind a little bit when you think of how many smart people are out there. What happens if just one of them turns to being evil or wanting to kill you, and they are so smart that they can do it? And if they're, what if they're smarter than you? You're going to be Fortunato. You're going to be tricked. You're going to be conned into this. And that's what's scary. But again, remember, there were no scary movies, no scary stories. Horror genre didn't exist. Poe is doing all of this during a time where, you weren't expecting that. You were reading this, oh, here's a great story. He's got a friend. He likes wine. He's going down there. Oh, my gosh, he's laying bricks in there. What? He was a friend. What are my friends going to do to me? What happens if I say something to my best friend and he turns his back on me and wants to make revenge? Fortunato didn't even know any of this that was happening until the very end, until it was too late. That's what's really, really spooky about this. Okay, so that's our reading. What I want to do for the rest of today is I'm going to post a movie version of the Cask of Amontillado, so you can watch that as well. And then with that, plus all of the readings that we've done, or hopefully you've done, you can go back on my YouTube video list to go all over those, or you can read it yourself. I think that's also a really good one. You can also even play the recording on Amplify. You can press the play button and it'll read it for you. But then I'm also going to give you the video version that you can watch in case you got confused or you missed the day or whatever. You can do that. And then that'll finish up our Cask of Amontillado for today. And then tomorrow we're going to start The Raven. And The Raven, like I said, is a little bit more complicated and a little more difficult to read, but it is shorter. And once we read it a couple times, you'll see how we do it. Hopefully you'll like it. And then we're done. And then we're going to move on to we have we do have to write an essay as well. I know you're not thrilled to hear that part of it, but it'll be probably your last major essay for the school year. Okay. And it'll be based on Poe. Hopefully you enjoy that. And then after that, we have some Greek mythology, and that's our year. Like, that's it, guys. We're done. So stay strong. We'll hopefully finish up the stories this week, and then we'll work our essay next week, and then we'll finish up with our Greek mythology. But that's it for today. Again, no DLP, no reading log. I'll post that on there. We're going to take a break for this week, and the test and iReady and No Reading will be the big assignments for this week. So make sure you get those done, okay? If you're having issues, problems, remind Aries or email me. Any of those ways, we'll be good to go. Stay safe, do work, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.